Hey, good morning. Welcome to RFD today on a Friday. It is the 26th day of April. I'm Rita Frazier in for DeLoss Yankee. Lots of news. We'll be talking with Dr. Lee Schultz from Iowa State. A huge issue for not only the pork and livestock industry, but for grains as well. The U.S.-China relations, how it pertains to the pork industry and others will be coming up in a topic that we'll discuss at the bottom of the hour. And we'll begin our conversation with Andy Houston from Roseville later on this program. This is RFD Today. Yeah, certainly a lot on that list. Talking to Pioneer Field agronomist Eric Allinger, and Eric, as you talk about all of those factors, especially on weed management, given the calendar, I would think that that's also going to come into play on anybody that's considering dicamba. Those things have changed a little bit. What's on your mind as far as that particular product?
Well, I think, again, early on here, I don't think we're going to have any trouble at all. As you get one or two more showers and this whole game becomes delayed for corn planting and then for bean planting, growers are just going to have to keep in mind the end application date, that last application date that the state of Illinois has determined to make sure that we don't get crossways with that. Otherwise, early on, I think we'll be fine. As far as that's concerned, but I think everybody will, as the calendar turns into May, and you think about that last application on June 30th, you're going to want to certainly keep that in the forefront of your plans.
The other question I would have for you in that part of the state, how much wheat do you have, and if so, how's it looking?
A fair amount of wheat out this year, probably not as much as normal. If you remember last fall, we got into a wet stretch that started in September and actually all through wheat planting season. So maybe not quite the wheat acres that we normally have. What's out there looks good. The wheat that looked good breaking dormancy a month ago actually looks outstanding. I've got wheat in Shawneetown that looks out of this world. Looks incredible. So I'm really excited for that. It's got most of its spring inputs on, the nitrogen harmonies on. It'll have a fungicide application for head scab, but it really, really does look good. Wheat that was looking, somewhat average coming out of dormancy actually looks pretty good now as well. So I think the fields, and this is not uncommon, the fields that we probably struggle with a little bit are those that were planted late. And by late, I mean, late October going into maybe even the first week of November, or wheat that was planted shallow. And we've learned a lesson about that as well, that, those plants don't overwinter as well, and they don't develop the root system like the deeper planted crops do, and probably don't look quite as good. But overall, the wheat crop looks quite good. So I'm excited for that. Growers aren't real hopped up about the commodity prices, but at least we're looking at what we think is a pretty decent wheat crop right now.
Good deal. Keep our fingers crossed for sure. Anything I didn't ask? I know you did a great job summarizing in the earlier report, but anything that you'd leave us with as far as a take home?
I think I know it's hard to do, but just reminding guys to stop and think, and number one on that list, and we didn't mention this yet, is safety. Because, once we get back in, hours are going to be long, guys are going to run hard, they're going to be in a hurry, and when you get tired and you get worn down, that's when accidents can happen. So I say guys, I mean families, husbands and wives and teams that go to the field, entire families that go. It's going to be hard on everybody. So it's, we think about that first and foremost, that, people thinking about just all sorts of basic safety, everything you do as far as transportation, moving equipment down the road, and care with herbicide, fertilizer, seed corn, everything like that, wearing gloves and goggles and with anhydrous ammonia, and just all the basic steps that you need to do that occasionally, you may forget when you get in a hurry. So just a safety reminder, probably above all else. And then, most of these guys are, have put in they put in many crops. So just take your time and do it right and do it the best you know how.
Perfect. Hey, Eric, thanks for making this work for me today. I appreciate it very much. Again, Eric Allinger, Pioneer Field agronomist. And with that, we will head over to Roseville area, and we will say hello to Andy Houston. Andy, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Super. So, Andy, you've been in the news a little bit lately because not only are you a corn and soybean cattle guy, you're also going to be planting some hemp in your county this year. So tell us a little bit about the history and paint us the picture of your farm.
We have a little over 2,000 acre corn and soybean operation that me and my brother run. And in 2014, when Illinois started the medical marijuana program, we put in some applications for a grow permit and dispensary permit, and we didn't get the grow permit, but we got a dispensary permit. So I'm part owner of a medical marijuana dispensary in Canton, Illinois. And through that, kind of people that we've met and got to know with over the past few years got us interested into the hemp business. And when Illinois was working on the legislation last year, and the federal government was working on the legislation, we decided to see if we couldn't grow some hemp last year on our farm. We did it through a research project in conjunction with Western Illinois University in Macomb, and we had a small research plot out here that was very informational for us. And so with that information that we gained last year, we're trying to assist farmers that might want to grow some hemp this year. And we've also got seeds available that we can sell to farmers. The strain of hemp that we're growing is it's a high CBD strain, which has become very popular in the last few years. People have noticed the health benefits of CBD, and that's kind of how we got started in the hemp business.
Very interesting for sure. Lots and lots of interest here, especially since the industry has been given a nod from the State House.
Yes. Actually, it's my understanding that next week the applications will be available online at the Department of Ag. So anybody that has any interest in growing hemp will be able to apply. And there's certain regulations that they have to abide by. They have to put a GPS coordinates in as where they're going to have their fields. And we've had a lot of interest on our part in the last month or so. We've met with and I've talked with on the phone of a lot of farmers that are interested and curious about the hemp industry, and they'd like to put some hemp in the ground this year. So everybody's kind of been waiting for the applications to become available, and hopefully in the next week that people will be able to apply. And the best time to plant hemp is after the 1st of June. Usually the first 3 weeks of June will be the best time to plant your fields, which works out really well for corn and soybean farmers because usually by the 1st of June everybody's kind of got their regular planting finished up, and then they can turn around and start in on the hemp.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, this year we certainly hope that you're done with your corn and soybean planting.
Yeah. It's been a long winter. People, we've just got into the fields and started planting corn this week. I was over in Iowa last week, and it looked like they were making some really good progress in that area. There was a lot of corn planters rolling last weekend, so there's a lot rolling in our area this week. But we got a little shower last night. We're hoping that after lunch today that we'll be able to get back out in the field and keep going before the rain hits this weekend.
Yeah. Well, we have another segment, thankfully, to talk a little more details with you. But I did want to ask earlier about, just some logistics with like weed suppression, things like that, things that we've kind of worked through a lot of years on the corn and soybean side of things may be a problem. Are you concerned about that with this new venture?
As far as there's no pesticides labeled for hemp, so farming techniques are going to be a lot different growing hemp than what most conventional farmers in Illinois are used to. So there's different techniques that, like on our farm this year, we're going to be laying down plastic, and we'll actually be planting seedlings through the plastic, and then we'll have irrigation drip line there to irrigate the plants. There's different techniques. Well, part of what we're going to do this summer, we're going to have a couple acres that are going to be dedicated strictly to research. And one of the things that I'm seeing that might be a good technique is to plant rye in the fall and then roll the rye down and use that for a mulch. And then you'll be able to no-till seedlings straight into that. And you won't have to bear the expense of the irrigation or the plastic if you did that technique. But a lot of these techniques aren't proven, so that's one of the things that we're trying to work with here on our farm in conjunction with the university, is try to find the best and most efficient way to grow hemp.
Very interesting. We'll be back. Andy Houston is our guest, Roseville farmer, and we'll talk more with Andy when we come back. This is RFD Today.
To social media, Sabrina Berkowitz connects rural routes for you. Sabrina covers a broad range of ag topics, so Farm Bureau members are the first to know about key issues. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up with a grain and livestock farm in my extended family, and today I really enjoy helping people learn how to use social media to advocate for agriculture.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Warmer weather means a longer honeydew list. Your county Farm Bureau can help you stay on top of your project list and save you money along the way. A Farm Bureau membership offer includes discounts on equipment and supplies from Grainger, plus free shipping on all standard Grainger products. Browse thousands of items from landscaping equipment to power tools. Anything you need to get the job done, Grainger has it. Not a Farm Bureau member? Call us at 309-557-2689. or visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders. Support us at 4h.org.
What's the excitement about buying a brand new car when you pay full price for it? County Farm Bureau members have a reason to be excited. A Farm Bureau membership gives you 2 car purchase discounts. When members buy a new Ford vehicle, they receive $500 off their purchase. And with the purchase of a qualifying Lincoln vehicle, they receive $750 off. Everyone loves a good deal, and the money saved is worth the price of our annual membership. This is just one of our 300,000 plus discounts that are always changing to fit our members' needs. Not a Farm Bureau member? Visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Look up, look down, look around, look up, look down, look around, in the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
If you're hearing this, you should be concerned about the Asian longhorn beetle, an invasive species that's destroying our trees. But you can help. Look for the signs and help stop the beetle.
Look up, look down, look around, look up, look down, look around, in the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
Some signs of the ALB are dime-sized holes on tree trunks, a sawdust-like material called frass, and the beetle itself, with a long black body and white spots.
Look up, look down, look around, look up, look down, look around, in the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
Learn all the signs and how to report them at AsianLonghornedBeetle.com. That's AsianLonghornedBeetle.com.
We are back on RFD today on a Friday. We're talking with Roseville area farmer Andy Houston, who farms with his brother. Tell us a little bit about that, Andy. Were you both on board with growing hemp? Do you both share this interest? You both have a lot of excitement surrounding the opportunities?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been quite the evolution over the last year. We basically started out with a small portion of seeds that we brought back from Colorado and started this. And he's been right there with me and watching me techniques that we're doing, and he's pretty good mechanically. So we're working on a planter that we're modifying in order to help. We'll use to plant seeds, and as late as the growing season's going to be, as far as the application, it's going to be very hard for people to plant seedlings like what we're going to do. So the best bet for people is going to be able to go directly to seeds into the ground. So he's been helping me work on this planter, and we're trying to get it set to where it'll plant hemp seeds pretty accurately. But there's still a little bit of work left to do to it. But yeah, he's been right there with me the whole way.
So you actually were able to harvest seeds last year?
Yes. We were anticipating that there was going to be a demand for seeds this year. So the plants that we grew last year, we used a pollination technique so that the plants would produce seeds. So we harvest the plants about the 10th or 15th of October, and we basically, all the work that we did as far as harvest was done by hand. Cut the plants down with a chainsaw, and we brought an old corn crib out of retirement, and we had all the plants hung up in there, and that's where they dried. And we finished up our corn and soybean harvest, and after Thanksgiving, we started pulling plants down and processing them and getting the seeds cleaned. After we got the seeds cleaned, we sent them into Illinois Crop Improvement and had them do germination tests and purity tests on the seeds. So our goal here is to provide the highest quality seeds and genetics that we can. Right now, this industry is basically in its infancy. So the availability of seeds, reputable seeds, there's been people out in Colorado and the Oregon area that have had seeds that have had some issues, but what we're trying to do here is make sure that we can provide people with the best seeds that and genetics that we can. The strain that we're working with it's a really good starter strain. It seems to be very adaptable to about any climate that it's been in, from Oregon to the Carolinas to New Mexico. It seems to do all right there. One of the things that people have to, if they're going to grow hemp, is once the plants go into the reproductive state and they start to go into flower and bloom, they will have to monitor the THC levels in the plants. And right now the threshold for THC is 0.3%, which if your plants go over that percentage, they're no longer classified in the hemp category, then they fall into the marijuana category. So that's been one of the really good things about this strain, is that the CBD or the THC levels have stayed very low. Last year, we took our last sample the 1st of October, and I was purposely trying to pull samples that I thought might contain a higher level of THC in them, and the highest test result that we got back last year was 0.28. So one of the things that we did over the winter was we did a build out in one of our buildings to where we could do some growing during the winter. So we took some of our seed stock that we had, that we produced last year, and we brought these plants up to full maturity. And hopefully today or the first of next week, I'm going to have some CBD and THC levels that will know exactly what these seeds are able to produce. So there's a lot to learn in the hemp industry. I've got a lot to learn yet. Even the growers that have been doing it in Colorado and Oregon, most of them are only going to start on their second or third year of growing it. So there's still a lot of research to be done. Different climates, different techniques, different soils. It's pretty exciting because in my lifetime, there's been very few industries that have become available that haven't already had an established, with farming, you've got Pioneer and Monsanto and everybody that have kind of taken over the markets. And with hemp, it's kind of a brand new industry that people can get into, and it's really a fun plant to grow too. Yeah,
well, we only have just about 30 seconds left. It's been very fascinating, and I'm kind of hoping that you'll come back on the show with us and take us along for the ride here after June 1st especially. And if you can share any pictures with us, our producer hopefully Nick will get on the phone here, and maybe you could share a couple of pictures from last fall. We've been talking with Andy Houston in Roseville. We'll be back with more on RFD Today. More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Trooper Teal at the Illinois State Police. Since January 1st, 15 Illinois State Police officers have been hit as a result of failure to reduce speed and move over into the other lane. 2 of those officers sadly lost their lives. April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Be part of the solution. Put your phone down. Focus on your drive, pay attention to the road, move over, slow down, just drive.
A message from the Illinois Farm Bureau and the Illinois State Police.
Attention corn farmers. Your corn checkoff dollars are working with the U.S. Meat Export Federation to grow red meat export volumes. Because when we're exporting beef, we're also exporting corn. The beef industry consumes 28% of all corn fed to livestock, plus additional corn in the form of DDGs, a co-product of ethanol production. Now that's what we call working an angle. Your checkoff is working corn from all angles. Because of the Illinois Corn Marketing Board, your profitability is our bottom line. A message from the Illinois Corn Checkoff.
Are you preparing for planting season? We don't mean to be a pest, but here's a few things you need to know before you grow. The Illinois Department of Agriculture now requires special local needs labels, including new restrictions for the use of herbicide dicamba on top of soybeans in Illinois for the 2019 growing season. Did you know these additional restrictions go beyond federally approved labels? Remember, the label is the law. To find out more about these Illinois-specific labels, visit ilfb.org/label-aware.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
When it comes to our members, Chris Magnuson connects rural routes for you. Chris leads Illinois Farm Bureau's efforts to provide valuable information to our members. He has spent 2 decades with IFB. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a farm with corn, soybeans, and Christmas trees. I've been in ag communication for 3 decades now. My greatest satisfaction has always remained the same, to serve our members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards Loyalty Program, with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/farmbureau.
And we are back on RFD today. Solar International has 5 full-service Case IH dealerships located throughout central Illinois. They carry a large selection of both new and used equipment, as well as the technology and parts to keep your operation up to speed. Solar International. Next, we head to Iowa State University. We're going to talk with Dr. Lee Schultz. He's at the Department of Economics there. And, Lee, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, really good. Before we dive in to do some really meaty topics for agriculture, tell us about you. I'm just looking a little bit at your bio. You have quite the awards and honors list.
Well, I've been honored to work with a lot of good people and be at a great university and in a great state with animal agriculture. So it's really been a great job for me being here in Iowa and really being involved in commodity markets, mostly focusing on the cattle and hog markets. And, we've been through some tremendous times in my 7 years here at Iowa State, and kind of excited for, where markets are currently and where they're going.
Yeah. Now, of all those awards, what are you proudest of?
Oh, I think it's got to be the Extension Awards, just because that's really what working with producers, and that's what I get excited about. That's why I wake up every day excited to go work with producers. So anytime you can kind of be honored for your work with producers, that's something that sticks with you.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in central Wisconsin on a hobby beef farm, and have made my way to Wisconsin River Falls for an undergraduate in agricultural business, and then to Michigan State for a master's, and then to Kansas State for a PhD, and now getting a bit closer back to Wisconsin, being here in Iowa.
Well, we know your Wisconsin and the dairy industry, we've been dealing with that. It's kind of almost, even though there are some similarities there with the rest of the nation, certainly your state of Wisconsin has been hit extremely hard with the dairy industry. But today we really wanted to focus in on China, particularly on the pork issue. And, with the African swine fever, let's start there. And, do we really have a handle on total numbers of hogs affected, how widespread African swine fever has become as we talk here late April 2019?
Well, I think that the answer is really yes and no. Obviously we get reports out of China as far as where they're seeing new incidents and new outbreaks and continuing outbreaks, and several analysts have put out numbers suggesting anywhere from 100 million pigs have been either culled or affected from this, and that number continues to rise. I think what we're really watching is, the amount of, imports that China is bringing in of pork, and that's really kind of serving as a barometer of how large and widespread this impact is of African swine fever.
Mm-hmm. And we look at prices. We've seen prices over in the cash side for hogs where we haven't seen in many years. Here in Illinois, up to $60 for Illinois direct hogs just yesterday. How do you see those prices being reflected in what's to come, and as we filter through this issue with China?
Well, when you really look at futures prices and cash prices, there's actually a pretty big disconnect, and we talk about that as basis, so just cash minus futures, and futures have really outpaced the cash market. So yes, cash has been strong, but futures have been even stronger. And when we look at current futures prices for summer contracts, so June, July, those contracts in August, those are suggesting really tremendous prices here of, we've been right in that dollar range, bouncing above and below that. Cash prices have been quite a bit weaker. Now, we know seasonally those prices increase, but if those futures prices prove to be true, that's going to be a tremendous increase in cash market prices and revenue for producers. And I think what those futures markets are suggesting is that demand is going to be very strong both domestically here in the U.S., but really on the world market. And a lot of attention is pointed to the protein deficit, pork deficit in China, and how much they're going to need to import here in 2019 and likely into 2020 and even potentially further.
And what kind of handle do you have on those potential numbers that they will be importing?
The best numbers we have right now is the weekly trade data that's reported out of the USDA Foreign Agriculture Service. The reason why the weekly data, the data that we're watching, is because the official data is only available through February, and we've really seen the impact of exports and prices really started in March and into April. And so the weekly data, we have data through the April 18th, so this last week here, and that data is showing China is up 710% compared to a year ago levels. And so that consists of both exports that have been moved to the country, that's up 215%, but also exports that are on the books. So the sales have been made. Now they could cancel those sales, but this year we haven't seen those cancellations. Those are up over 3,000% year to date. And so that shows that there's tremendous buying taking place in China, and that's directly related to the African swine fever impact.
Those numbers, they're astronomical.
They are, and part of it is, I like to always put a little frame of reference. So China, they represent about 7% of our muscle meat exports for pork, and about 33% of the variety meats. Now, the weekly numbers that I'm quoting, those are only for the muscle cuts. But if we're looking at 7%, if you get numbers quite a bit bigger than year ago, you can get some of those astronomical year-over-year percentage increases because, they were a relatively small but important market.
Hey, hold
up. Now they're seeing tremendous increases.
Thank you, and hold that thought. We're going to dive right back into that topic when we come back. This is RFD Today.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
As you prepare for planting season, remember your neighbors. Whether you're an applicator, grower, or beekeeper, use FieldWatch to register your farm and monitor for sensitive sites around you. FieldWatch is a free, easy-to-use online mapping tool. Consulting FieldWatch is now a requirement for the over-the-top use dicamba products. Communicating with your neighbors will help you protect your farm and the environment. Don't wait. Go online to fieldwatch.com. Growing agriculture. We grow best together.
Here's a commodity market update on the RFD Radio Network. We are still higher in the corn and the wheat this hour and lower in the soybeans. Nearby May corn up 5.5. We're at $3.53. July up 5.5. Your December corn up a nickel, $3.82 and the March corn up 4.5 at $3.97. May soybeans down 2 this hour, $8.57 July down 2.25. September down 2.25, and November soybeans down 2.25, $8.91. May beans May wheat, Chicago up 2.75. We're at $4.37.5. July up 3. December wheat up 2.75 for $68.75. To the meal, July soybean meal down 8 cents. We're at $3.0880. Back on RFD Today, visiting with Dr. Lee Schultz at Iowa State University, Department of Economics. Before the break, I had to rush you through that, but kind of recap for us, Lee, what you're thinking as far as digesting the potential numbers of pork going into China.
Well, when we look at really the first 4 months or so here, as we kind of recapped, we're seeing large, and we're talking large year-over-year increases. When you look at both exports that have been made and sales that have been made, not the exports delivered yet, that's 710% increase year-over-year. And so, we're looking at large increases in exports to China this year. I think there is a little bit of a governor in that, though, that we are still facing the 62% tariffs on pork going in to China, and so that's going to limit some of the sales or the potential that could have been there.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, it's so ironic, really, because we've been very optimistic that we're going to see this U.S.-China trade deal very soon. In fact, here within the next few weeks. At the same time dealing with African swine fever. So how do you advise producers or the industry into what is going to happen if we actually do reach that deal with China?
Well, I think it's going to be important of what the details of that deal particular are. And let's just talk about pork, for example, here. And, realizing that we're facing that 62% tariff, does that tariff get rolled all the way back to the 12% that was the original tariff, or maybe the first round that it increased it to 37%? So I think all of that's potentially on the table. Also, there's been some discussion about some of the non-tariff barriers, like ractopamine. China does not accept pork that has been fed ractopamine or paline, and so potentially would we receive removal of that ban? I think that's less likely. But that's also, I think, when you have these trade talks, really anything is potentially on the table. And so we're seeing, strong exports. We're seeing reflective, very strong prices. And right now that's setting up quite a bit of large profitability for pork producers.
Yeah. And getting the cold storage numbers, thinking about how much product we have a lot of meat to move.
And that's really been the key. I think if you look over the last couple of years, prior to the tariff issues and the African swine fever, really the big questions in the market were, would we have the slaughter capacity, which we now have with the additions of the new packing plants, but then also, is there a home for this pork? Just because we can slaughter it, does it mean that we're going to find the demand for that pork? I think that so far has been answered, where we've seen strong exports to China, but also to several other countries. We've seen really growth to, overall, we're up about 17% when we look at the weekly data. You've seen some growth to Canada, Colombia, Australia, Hong Kong, some of our more markets that are leading markets like Japan, South Korea are down a bit this year, but overall we've been up, and that has supported pork prices.
Well, it's so interesting. And the other thing, while we wait on the China deal, U.S. and Japanese talks continue, and especially not just for different parts of the ag segment, particularly cattle, this could be huge.
Yes, I think it could be tremendous, because to put us on equal playing field with some of our large competitors, namely Australia, in that Japanese market, which has been a leading market to us, is going to be very important. And when you look at both the value and the volume that Japan represents for both hogs and both pork and beef is very important to those markets. And as we've continued to grow our production domestically, we've been more reliant on those export markets to absorb that additional production. And so far we've seen that occur here the last several years, and that's supported prices. But really it's about the future of where that production, I think we're pretty certain on increased production. But if we're going to continue to see steady prices, we're going to need that additional exports.
Can we dive into another one that, that we're very hopeful, getting Congress back to town, et cetera, and maybe seeing some more movement on USMCA, also very critical?
Yes, and you could really argue when we're going to talk pork here. I mean, pork, it's 33% of our muscle cut exports go to Mexico. And so, I think what's sometimes getting lost in all these trade disputes is how important USMCA is in a deal with both Mexico and Canada, because our closest neighbors are our most important trade partners in that. And so very important to get that market access back at, lower tariff rates, and be able to continue to send products to Mexico and Canada.
We're talking to Dr. Lee Schultz at Iowa State University. As we talk about the U.S. pork industry, I'm just curious because in and along, kind of before the most recent uptick in prices on the cash and the futures, folks out in the countryside is like, don't we have enough producers? Don't we have enough pork? They wonder about the growth in the buildings and the growth in the industry, not only in your state there, Iowa, but here in Illinois as well. How do you talk to that question?
Well, really ultimately how large any commodity industry is going to be dictated by how strong demand is. And we've seen that pork demand has been tremendous, both domestically and on the export market the last several years, and that's grown the industry significantly. A lot of the additions to facilities and infrastructure have really been pent-up demand. And so we've grown pig numbers because of that demand over the last several years, and now needed to either replace some of the older facilities or really increase the number of facilities, particularly with packing plants. We've really seen large increases, over 25% in inventories over the last decade or so, and we haven't seen the growth in packing capacity. So now we're finally seeing that being realized in the industry, and that's at a very healthy point now, packing capacity versus slaughter numbers, and very beneficial for both producers and packers. I think it's important to understand that agriculture adds tremendous value not only to agriculture but just the general commodity, and we see that here in Iowa. When agriculture is doing good, the Iowa economy is doing good.
For sure. So I was just going to say 30 to 45 seconds here remain. What's our take home?
I think the take-home is that when you look at the pork market, there's tremendous opportunity for pork producers to really hedge against possible negative prices or negative price movements. So take the opportunities now that are out there on the futures market, be it short hedging, buying put options, anything to really protect some of the profit that is currently out there, because we've seen tremendous volatility in these markets.
Great to get to know you. And, Lee, I wondered about, DeLoss Yankee connecting with you, but now when you said you got your PhD at Kansas State, that's the link. He wanted a fellow KU guy on. So, hey, we'll talk to you again for sure. Really appreciate your time on this Friday as we talk about these very important issues with Dr. Lee Schultz from Iowa State University. When we come back, we'll talk social media with Sabrina Berkowitz, and we'll talk about the issues trending this week and how you guys can jump in and tell your story in agriculture. This is the Friday edition of RFD Today. Here's your livestock summary on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Rita Frazier. CME hog futures slid 3.2% yesterday. Cattle futures extend the week's losses, falling 2.5%. Long liquidation in the live cattle futures market continued yesterday as traders consider the possibility that the seasonal high is behind us following Wednesday's sell-off. Meanwhile, USDA's weekly export sales report did not show additional sales of pork to China, while shipments to China were larger than the week prior. With that said, Illinois cash market on the Illinois direct hogs, $51 to $60 top. And the futures as we roll this morning, lean hogs in the May up 35, 88.20. June up 52 at 90.30. Live cattle, June down a dime, 115.27. August feeder cattle down 105, 152.20.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois?
Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org. Hey, we're back on RFD today on a Friday, and it is Friday, so we get to check in with the Illinois Farm Bureau Senior Social Media Specialist, Sabrina Berkowitz. Hey, Sabrina.
Hey, Rita. Good morning.
Good morning. There are a lot of good news posts out there to talk about, especially Culver's. We know that they're always committed to the farmer, and they're certainly active.
Yes, so Culver's is bringing back their hashtag Farming Fridays promotion throughout the summer. And you can find that on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. However, I haven't seen anything out there today. So keep checking back. It's going to start today. And the first person they're featuring is the founder of Farm Her. So there's a neat story behind that. And, of course, we want you to keep checking out the hashtag, share their story, and let's support Culver's on social media for all these great Think a Farmer promotions they do.
Yeah. Now, before we get off this topic, turn your mic on there, Nick, and we're going to ask about favorite Culver's products.
Oh,
do you have one?
Any sort of ice cream from Culver's, I am all over that.
Double butter burger with only cheese.
Nice.
Gotta go simple.
You can't beat it.
I just realized that when you say butter burger, you put butter on the burger, and I was like, whoa. I didn't realize that. I thought it was like on the bun or something.
Yeah. It's delicious. I'd take it all, but I just thought I'd throw that in there because I think everybody loves their products.
Yeah, exactly. How can you not?
How can you not? So Culver's, anything else we should watch? I know that there's the Farmers for Free Trade you mentioned is in the state.
Farmers for Free Trade is running this pro-trade motorcade all across the United States, and they were in Illinois this week. And if you want to see what happened and what they did while they were here, they met with Representative Sherry Bustos. You can visit them on Twitter at Farmers for Trade and check out what's going on and keep track of the motorcade. And, of course, we want you to support them and share their content on Facebook and Twitter. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and as we just talked about, really all program, for the most of this program, the importance of trade to agriculture in our future is huge.
Absolutely, and these guys are doing great with that motorcade, taking it through the country and really getting some good attention on social media from it.
Also, some new numbers coming up from Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, so Twitter made a big move this week and decided to stop disclosing its monthly user count, which they were getting a lot of flack for because it keeps going down. Because we know Twitter's struggling with growth a little bit. So they decided that they want everybody to start focusing on their daily user count, which is a better number. So I like to share that with people just so they have some context on the size of these social media platforms. We still know that Facebook is the biggest, with just about 1/3 of the human beings on Earth have a Facebook account. And for perspective, only about 330 million people have a Twitter account. But Facebook is in the billions.
And where's like Snapchat?
Snapchat, I think last time I looked, was somewhere between Twitter and Instagram. I can't remember the exact number, but it's just under Instagram. And Instagram, last time I looked, Pew Research said they had about 650 million users.
And I think you've shared this with us before, too, but where is the next where do they see the biggest growth coming?
You know, the biggest grower has still been Instagram, according to Pew Research. So I think that one's going to continue to be a big grower. Pinterest has made a little revival with some different things that they're incorporating for businesses to sell easier. And LinkedIn is also one to watch. They're actually about to introduce a live component. So you could go live on LinkedIn. They've been rolling that out to some of their big users to test it. So, yeah, there's some out there, but I don't think anyone's going to come close to rivaling the power of Facebook just yet.
Yeah. Now, do they have age brackets on that? I feel like I'm an oldie. And
Absolutely. Well, Snapchat is really popular with the under 18 crowd. And so if you've got a product or service and you're marketing it toward that, Snapchat is where you want to be.
Well, we're certainly in a delayed process. There are some guys and gals that have been lucky enough to get out in the fields, but I'm just kind of wondering if you're wanting folks to get engaged, you probably would like to see, once they do get in the field, some of their pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to tag us on Facebook, IL Farmers, and Twitter at IL Farm Bureau or at Farm Week Now, any of those, let us know if you're in the field. We saw the planting report this week, and it was something like 1%. So we're seeing a lot of people doing field work, haven't seen too much planting yet. But if you get out there, please let us know because we want to share those.
And you have had some grand success. I remember, was it back at Harvest that you just got a ton of pictures?
Yeah, something like more than 350 farm families shared their harvest selfies with us. And that's exciting. So we're going to be asking you to do the same thing this year. But more importantly, we're going to start putting out our planting safety graphics. So you can look for those coming across our social platforms. We're trying to wait till we get a little more tractors on the road and things like that, and people are seeing them, so it will make sense. So those will be coming soon.
I know here in the last minute, Trooper Tracy was in the building last week. You were able to connect with her, and you got some marvelous numbers from her video and your post with her.
Yeah, we did. That was encouraging because she talked a lot about being safe and not driving distracted. That goes for farmers as well as the non-farm community, and also about Scott's Law and moving over into that other lane when you see a disabled vehicle or someone who's been pulled over on the right side of the road.
And April is Distracted Driving Month.
Absolutely. Don't do it.
It's tough.
I signed the pledge. Did you?
Oh, I didn't. Was that what the donut was about?
Yeah. I didn't eat the donut, but I did sign the pledge.
Did you sign the pledge, Nick?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I will say, those, you guys know me, I make quite a few trips down I-55 going northbound, and I will say that this month I have seen more people move over for emergency vehicles, so that message is definitely getting across.
Great.
Good.
I've been seeing lots of people talking about it on social.
So, anything else that you'll leave us with today, Sabrina?
You know what? If you've got a small business, a small ag business, a nursery, a food store, specialty, anything like that, Cinco de Mayo's next week. Go out and Google, figure out how you can come up with some promotions on social media, and get people to come in and see you.
Great. I almost forgot that most important
topic.
topic.
#Cinco de Mayo, May 3rd.
#Cinco de Mayo, May 3rd?
May 3rd, yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. This has been Town and Country. This has been RFD Today.
RFD Today.
Thanks. More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.